Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time of year, and the haunting has returned. My name is B-sox, and I am being joined for week one of the Haunting 2024 by my old pal. I guess we can say we're old pals now. We've talked enough on the phone to do so, right?
Absolutely.
Cory Lollman from Lollman Paranormal, going to be the first at bat this year on the Haunting. Cory, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, pretty good, man. It's good to talk again.
You know what's funny about it? Earlier this year, we were talking, and what was it? It was the Horridge House documentary, wasn't it? That's what it was, or House of
1859. Yeah.
There you go. I knew it was a number. I just couldn't place what it was. But at some point, we were like, oh, yeah, he was a part of the haunting. And then I was like, you know what? I don't think he was. I think we just talked the talk at one point. So
I think so, yeah.
But anyways, you're joining me this year on The Haunting. We are getting into the month of October. That means the ghosts, goblins, and everything in between are coming out of the woodwork, and it's getting crazy out there, isn't it?
It's the greatest time of year, man, let me tell you.
Are you a big, is October your big time of year? And I don't mean from a paranormal side, but just, are you a big Halloween guy?
I actually am. I love it. Growing up, it was always a fun time for me and my two brothers and my dad. We always decorated the front yard and got all into it. And, as we got older, we started pitching in and kind of helping scare out, the little toddlers that would stroll by. And, we always made a really good time of it.
What was Cory Lollman's best Halloween costume ever?
Oh, man. I will tell you the time that it wasn't just one costume. So we actually, when we got older, kind of at that fine line age where, you're almost too old to do it, but not quite yet.
Yeah.
We actually saved our costumes every year. So instead of going around block after block after block, we went down the street, back up, changed, went down the street, back up, changed, went down the street, back up. So we just kind of hit the same houses and just switched costumes.
You know what? As we get into talking about the paranormal, it's great to know that you're a con man.
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome. But no, really, what did you dress up as? Because you're younger than I am. What was kind of your generation? What was your fun costume?
Right. I think, the typical at that age, was Power Rangers, maybe a mummy or a vampire. It wasn't anything too crazy, just kind of your typical normal stuff.
I got you. Well, Cory, thank you so much for coming on this year. We appreciate it. Let's get down to it. Let's talk about ghosts and goblins and everything that goes bump in the night.
Sounds good, man.
All right. So, Cory, obviously, Lollman Paranormal is your deal. If anybody wants to know more about Lollman Paranormal, you can find them over on Facebook. The group, when did it start?
So we actually started during COVID.
Oh, wow.
In 2020. So, yeah, everything else was shut down, but, I don't think a ghost is going to catch a cold. So
now
we kind of decided to put it together and start heading out.
Who was a part of the group then, and are they still a part of the group now?
Yeah, so it started as me, my wife, and my dad, really. We invited some friends on the first one, but it's always just kind of been the set, us three, me, my wife, and my dad.
Okay.
And,
now, where did you decide, okay, we're going to start a paranormal group, especially during that time of year? I mean, are you guys into the paranormal? Are you, what's kind of your background with this stuff?
The main show, everyone knows the Ghost Adventures, and that really started up in my later years in high school.
Okay.
And so watching that, it was always something that deeply intrigued me and caught my attention pretty good.
Okay.
And, of course, at that age, I watch what my father watches, so he was always kind of into it as well. And we had never really thought about going out and doing it. But as we got older and the years went by, it was always that thought, is this real or is it just a TV show?
Yeah.
I mean? So the whole purpose of us really starting to go out was to really find and seek out those experiences that, ghosts are real or spirits are real, or prove to ourselves that some of the stuff may or may not exist.
Cory Lollman from Lollman Paranormal joining me on The Haunting this year. Going back a little ways to when you were younger, when they start getting into this stuff, it's because of a couple of different reasons. It's either you're just into it or you've had an experience of some sort and you want to learn more about it. What is it for you? What was it, the genesis of this stuff? Why is it interesting to Cory?
None of us really had any experiences that we can definitively say, hey, this happened, or I feel like this happened, and that's kind of what got us into it.
Yeah.
It was strictly a fascination. Everyone has their own beliefs, whether it's this religion, that religion. So for us, it was strictly that just, wow, if this stuff is real, that is something that's amazing and incredible that you can't explain any other way.
Okay.
So let's go see if it's real. Let's prove to ourselves that what we believe in is real and share those experiences with other people.
All right. So who brought up the idea of starting a group first, and what was the sales pitch on that?
Oh, that's all me. That is 100% all me. Dad was on board right away.
Okay. He was like, yeah,
we
F
both
it,
kind
let's
of
do
had
this.
that. Yeah. Tia, my wife, she took a little bit more convincing.
Like, is she into it, though?
Yeah, she's definitely into it. We still watch the shows here and there, more others than some.
Okay.
She gets burnt out sometimes because a lot of people don't realize the long nights that you stay up and talk to walls and stuff like that. Yeah, she's definitely into it. And
they never quite show the excitement of sitting in a room by yourself with no lights on, just talking to yourself for hours.
Exactly. If you've never fallen asleep just talking out loud, you will do it multiple times.
Oh, that's awesome. Cory Lollman on the line with me. All right, so you get Dad and your wife on board with this, and what was the next step? Like, was it, all right, let's start figuring it out, or did you have kind of a plan to get this thing moving?
So for us, it was really, we wanted to go. We didn't really know what to expect, so we just kind of invited some friends to go with us.
Okay.
And anyone that lives in or around the Des Moines area has probably heard of the Farrar School.
Yes.
I know we did growing up. So we just really started doing research to figure out how to reach out to the school, and we were able to figure that out and call them and book a night to go out there with a group of people. And so we did. And me, my wife, and my dad were the only three that stayed up the whole night.
Cory Lollman on the line with me talking about Lollman Paranormal and getting into the haunting for 2024. So your first investigation was at the Farrar house. What did you think? Did anything happen that night? Was it a dud? Was it awesome? What was your night like?
It was different than what I think we expected.
Okay.
In the moment when you go out for the first time, I don't think a lot of people expect it to be quiet. As funny as that sounds.
Yeah.
You're the only people in a building that's abandoned. No one else is there. And you have this expectation, I think, sometimes of things are just going to happen all night long, and that's really not the case.
No, and especially at a place like Farrar, and I've never said this any other way, but it's very hit or miss if you get anything at that place.
Yes, exactly. And I know the biggest thing for us wasn't actually stuff that we heard with our own ears, but it was stuff that listening back to our camcorder audio we heard that we were like, okay, that did not happen when we were sitting there. Like these phantom footsteps, there's no one else in the awake at the time that we're sitting here. Who is walking? The sound of a child screaming was another thing that we had caught there. Like there's no kids with us in this building, and no one is just screaming to scream. So what can we do to explain that? There's absolutely nothing that we could come up with that's like, hey, okay, what the
yeah, exactly. That first time you get an EVP, it's hard to forget that.
Very much so, yes.
What was the first one? Was it just the not so much the footsteps, but was it the kids playing? Is that what you got?
I can't even tell you who was holding the camera at the time, but someone's walking down the stairs and they kind of come around the corner, and you literally hear this child like yell out something, and you can't quite make out what it's saying.
Okay.
But you hear syllables and stuff, and it just literally sounds like a kid yelling out for one reason or another. And of course, when you review that stuff and you hear it, a lot of times when I review audio, I have earbuds in so that I can't hear anything else around me.
Yeah.
So when that comes through, it almost gives you this heart-stopping thing like, what? Okay, what?
I don't know about
be there.
I don't know about you, but whenever I listen to tapes, especially if it's something I don't know it's coming, there's a little bit of trepidation about listening to that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Just because it's like, okay, what's about to happen here?
Yeah, I think you get yourself amped up. Like, okay, I know that this is like a 2-minute part where no one talks. What's about to come through?
I can remember one of the programs I use on my laptop. It'll show what's recording as you're recording. So I would take it. It was always weird when there'd be no sound, nothing happening, and all of a sudden there'd be sound of some sort being recorded on that thing.
Yeah, that's definitely an odd thing because you're sitting there talking or not talking at all in this
Yeah.
case. And you might have a multimeter or whatever the device is that will register sound or vibrations as noises happen. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, it's still that still silence, but it starts flickering or, lighting up or going off. And you're like, okay, I need to make sure
Yeah.
to go back and listen here.
Cory Lollman joining me on the first episode of The Haunting for 2024 as we dive into the world of the paranormal. So this started all back in 2020 during COVID. First investigation was Farrar. Where have you guys been since?
Oh, man. All over the Midwest.
Okay.
Pretty much, I mean, you have your most popular ones here in Iowa, the Villisca House, Malvern Manor, Edinburgh Manor. We've been to a couple secret little hidden gems, like the Horge House that's not as widely popular. And that's just Iowa, We've gone up to Wisconsin, Indiana, Kansas, Nebraska. So really all over the Midwest. And it's been a heck of a trip.
Let's go back to the documentary, because that's about the Horge House, correct?
Yes, sir.
Because I want to talk about that one specifically, and then I'd like to see your thoughts on some of the other places in Iowa. Tell us a little bit about the Horge House and how you got hooked up there.
So the Horge House is an old house. Nothing real tragic ever happened there. It was built in 1859.
Imagine if a haunted movie came out. Real quick, imagine if a haunted movie came out and the opening line was, "Nothing really tragic ever happened there."
Right. You would probably never watch it. Yeah, most people, when they think about a haunted house, they're thinking, okay, what murders happened here, or what bad stuff happened here, and granted, there were deaths in the home, but it was just a home.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really brought us to it, because we don't feel like everything is demonic or evil. Sometimes we feel like spirits are just living in their homes still. And we were invited to go out there by Josh and Katie Hopkins, of course.
Of course, they were part of the haunting last year.
And we spent a good deal of time out there, and we just started having, me personally, I started having crazy experiences from the first night. And really, the documentary was our way of saying thank you to them and really trying to show the excitement of the home and what we are experiencing at this house, and hopefully bring awareness to it, and hopefully let other people come out and experience it themselves.
Okay, a couple questions about it. Where can people see the documentary now?
So right now, the documentary is actually streaming on Scare Network TV.
Okay.
You can download the app or go watch it online as well. It's free, or you can pay to subscribe if you choose to.
Okay.
And you'll get no ads.
What?
No ads. Yeah, if you pay to subscribe, you can watch it for free, but you got to watch the ads.
Okay. Oh, that's an interesting one. I've never heard of Scare Network before. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to take a look at that. All right. So what was it about the place was it scary? I mean, that's always kind of the question with this kind of stuff. Was it scary, or was it just more interesting?
So the first night that we were there was we didn't know what to expect with it. We really didn't know a lot of it.
Okay.
So going into it, we were kind of open-minded with it. It was just something we were doing with some friends.
Okay.
But it got scary very quick for me.
Okay. Let's hear it. How did Cory Lollman?
Sat in a room. I was just sitting in the room upstairs, outside the master room, and we were just kind of asking some questions. Katie was, and we were doing some different experiments and stuff. And it literally felt like someone had walked up behind me and put their hand on the back of my shoulder. It wasn't anything bad or evil, I don't feel like. It just felt like they were walking up and saying, "Hey, I'm behind you, excuse me," kind of thing. But, considering that was the first time I had ever had a physical experience like that, I jumped up like a little schoolgirl, screamed a little bit, cussed a little bit, didn't know what just happened.
Yeah.
And everyone gives me crap about that now.
Oh, that's really funny. Okay, so how many nights did you spend at the Horge House?
Yeah, we're probably talking, as of today, we're probably talking in between 1 to 2 dozen somewhere.
Wow.
I'd say close to about 15 different nights.
Is it a favorite?
For us, yes. I do think it is. Just because of the history of the home with the family that lived there, the Horge family, and really the experiences, the EVPs we've caught there. Granted, we've investigated it more than any other place that we've been to.
Yeah.
But we've also gotten a lot of good activity and a lot of good evidence that we've been able to capture. So
if you're going to take the one piece of evidence that would convince someone that there's something to the paranormal, what would it be from the Horge House?
I would say it is an EVP that we captured prior to the documentary, actually.
Okay.
It was just my wife and I there for Father's Day, actually.
Okay.
and we're upstairs in the master room, and we're actually getting ready to do a live video on TikTok. So I was sitting blindfolded in the chair, and my wife was kind of messing with the camera, trying to get the live feed up and everything. And you literally hear this grisly, graspy voice just say, "Hi."
Oh, really?
Very creepy like. Very creepy like. And I'm like, okay, that's creepy as hell. But then an hour later, when we go back up there, we're doing another session once again, my wife and I only in the same room. And I ask, is this where you want us to be tonight? Because it just seemed like that's where the noises were. That's where we were, feeling the different energy that you can feel.
Yeah.
And this voice comes through and says, wouldn't it be?
Oh, really?
Clear as day, a direct response to what I was asking. And I can't tell you how many experiences that we've had in this room since.
I wonder what it is about that room.
They have a lot of historical objects in the house.
Okay.
It was also the master room, so it could be one of George's ex-wives that were there or something else entirely.
Do you think, especially with something like the Horridge House, because I think there are different sorts of haunts out there, do you think it's the house, or do you think it's one of these historical objects that has something clinging to it?
Honestly, I don't think there's anything attached to anything there. I think it's more people that used to live there.
Okay. Just the energy of the house
over the years. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's very possible that George or one of his two wives are there, or all of them. His business partner, Augustus, who also lived there.
Okay.
I really strongly believe it could be them there.
I got you. Cory Lollman from Lollman Paranormal joining me on the first episode of The Haunting 2024. We're talking about the Horridge House. Again, you can see that you can see it over on scarenetwork.tv, or you can download the app. The app. It is the House of 1859, Haunting of the Horridge House. You've talked about some of the other places you've been around Iowa, and you named off some of the ones everybody knows: Villisca, Edinburgh, Malvern. Is there one that sticks out to you like it's the other big one in the state?
Honestly, I would go with Malvern.
Okay.
For me. Edinburgh is a wonderful, wonderful place to visit. Villisca, everybody knows the story.
Yeah.
So I think that place just gets a lot of hype because of the tragedy that happened to the Moore family there. But Malvern for me is extremely intriguing and exciting because you have the history to back up the potential hauntings that are going on there. With it being a hotel in its early days to becoming a group home and literally housing people with schizophrenics or murderers or anything like that. There were all sorts of different kinds of people that lived there or stayed there. And I think when you get all that and throw it in the blender, I think it can create a haunted wonderland pretty much.
Josh Hurd does a pretty good job of putting that evidence out as well. So
yes.
He's a good dude. So Malvern Manor. What was the one moment from Malvern that really was like, okay, something's happening here?
So spoiler here. And we'll get into that a little later. So the show that we filmed over the last year, our first episode was there.
Okay.
And we are upstairs, and I have the camera pointed out to the hallway. We have some, they're called cat balls. They're little motion sensor balls that light up when they're touched or moved or
yeah.
something along those sorts. So we have them in the hallway spread out, and they keep going off.
Okay.
And so I have the camera pointed out there, and we're, asking our questions. The room we're in is known as Hank's room. And we're sitting there, and I can't remember what was asked or said or what, but we captured my camera getting pulled on or tugged on. Once again, I jumped back pretty quick and swore a little bit. But that was just a remarkable thing that had happened. And to be able to capture it on our other camcorder was even more phenomenal. So I'm excited for people to see that.
What do you think is a one that's going to become popular in the state of Iowa? Like it seems like
state of Iowa.
It seems like, and not to put down any of the ones that people already know, but it seems like you'll get a new one every couple of years, and it seems like it's been a few years since we got a new one here in Iowa that's really stuck out to people. So
I've heard some good things about a couple different ones, and I think one that a friend of ours that has her team out of Cedar Rapids. They visited a place called the Klondike Hotel here in Iowa.
Klondike
I
Hotel.
don't know much about it.
That already sounds
Yeah, but
ominous.
yes, I don't know much about the history, but from what I've heard from different groups that have been there already, is a great place to visit, and they've been able to capture some pretty cool activity.
Looks like that's over in Manila.
Yes.
Klondike Hotel was built on the street that in 1897 was named Railroad Street. They've got they've got a couple different websites to it. And yes, that certainly looks like a place that would be haunted.
Yes, it does. It certainly does.
All right. So you've never been to this joint before, huh?
We have not. It is definitely, we're always looking for places in our home state to be able to visit and support. So I know that one's definitely at the top of that list.
Do you guys do like investigations for people, or is it mainly just, hey, we're going to go to these spots? Like, do you do many residential type things?
We have not.
Okay.
It's not that we won't do them. We are just very cautious about doing them, and we want people to understand that by inviting investigators in that way, that could open that door up for more activity to pick up, or, we don't want to make things worse for someone. So we really want them to understand that if you want us to come, we're more than happy to come and get spooked out a little bit. But we want you to know that that's not always beneficial for you.
It's when someone shows up and it's like, we're here to help. And it's like, how?
Yeah.
It's, and listen, I know there's different people out there, from, shamans to other religious, folks to crystals to, dowsing, right? There's a world of stuff out there, but if they're here, if they're going to tell you how to get rid of your haunting, I don't always believe that, if that's fair to say.
And I don't either. And that's smart. We're not professionals per se, if you can call people that.
You don't have a degree in this? What?
No, I never went to college. This is strictly something that we go out and seek out because we enjoy doing it.
Okay.
And if you say, hey, my place is haunted, I want you to come check it out, and you're okay with what might happen because of that, then we're up for it.
All right. Cory Lollman from Lollman Paranormal on the line with me. Real quick, when I searched a Klondike House, the IowaHauntedHouses.com website popped up. All the reviews from paranormal groups that have been to the Klondike House have it as either 4 or 5 pumpkins. So
4 or 5 pumpkins.
Yeah, they rate it with
good
pumpkins.
Rating.
I think it's awesome. So if you've never been to that website, it's kind of an interesting one. I don't know who does it, but IowaHauntedHouses.com. Cory, as we do make our way through this, of course, one of the big other pieces of news that came out for you guys, and we'll get back to some of the haunting stuff here in a second, but you guys are going to be a part of spiritrealm.net. You guys are going to have the Lollman Chronicles coming out here. We've talked about it a few times, but it is coming up here soon, correct?
Yes, it should. The first episode should be dropping probably here within the next month or two.
Nice. You excited?
I am very excited. I got a lot of work to do on the rest of them, but I'm excited for people to see it.
And tell us about the Lollman Chronicles. This is just you guys going around investigating locations, correct?
Yeah. So, one of the big things that we want people to know about it is it's not your typical TV show. Like you have Ghost Adventures, you have, Ghost Hunters or Destination Fear, those are all wonderful shows in their own aspect. This is not going to be like that.
Yeah.
Much more of a more realism aspect of paranormal investigating.
Okay.
So you're going to have some quiet time to it, but you're also going to see real experiences, real reactions. You're going to get the real history. We're not trying to oversell or overhype anything. It's strictly like a documentary-like series of me, my wife, and my father, and the experiences that we have going to these locations.
How did you guys get into this?
So we actually got in contact with Jim through Josh and Katie from the documentary.
Okay.
So it started off as us maybe putting the documentary on there, and Jim really had some really bright plans for the future for the network, and he gave us the opportunity to be able to produce 6 episodes for him and put them exclusively on the network.
And Jim
we're
is
super excited for the network. Jim is the CEO owner of the network.
Okay, and he's a paranormal guy as well, right?
Yeah, he actually goes out. He has his own stuff on there as well. They do live streams on there as well sometimes. They have live psychic shows, so tarot card reading if you believe or you're into that kind of stuff, you can watch those shows.
Okay.
During the week. They have a lot of really bright plans that we're really excited for coming up.
With the Lollman Chronicles coming out, what are some of the obviously, Horridge House is going to be in there. Malvern, I believe you said, is the first episode. Where else are we going?
So we go down to McIntyre Villa in Atchison, Kansas. We went over to the Cambry House out in Nauvoo, Illinois.
Okay.
We went up to Brodhead, Wisconsin, to a ginormous old school up there called Brodhead Manor.
Wow.
And the big one that I think a lot of people are going to be intrigued about is out in Indiana, the Indiana State Sanitarium.
Of course.
Out there, it's a ginormous complex with 3 different big buildings, a whole property of its own. So I think a lot of people are going to be really excited to see that one.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations on that again. That's really cool that you guys are going to be a part of this. Cory Lollman from Lollman Paranormal on the line with me. We'll have all the details and all this on the page as well. So if anybody is looking for links or want to get in touch with you, we'll be able to do that. But what else is coming up for you guys? Like, what's kind of next? Where are we at with the team? Where are we at with Spirit Realm? Like, what's going on in your guys' world right now?
Yeah, so, this fall is really a lot of pushing the show out. We're hoping to release episodes pretty quickly, one after another.
Okay.
Until they're all complete. I know we have a couple events coming up that we're kind of helping out with or a part of this next month. And after that, we get a little break. What's next for next year? We're not really quite sure yet. We'll talk to the network and see how they're feeling with the show. I know I definitely like to do another documentary on another location, even maybe here in Iowa.
Okay.
So a lot of options, a lot of project possibilities. It's just putting pen to paper and getting the details ironed out.
Cory Lollman on the line with me right now. This is The Haunting, the 2024 edition of it, first episode of the year. As we get ready to wrap up, let's talk about the world of ghost hunting. Is there anything, Cory, that you think is bunk, like with this stuff, or are you pretty open-minded about it? Where do you I always think this is kind of interesting because I feel like everybody has their different flavors of what they like about the paranormal. Is there any one that sticks out to you that's like, I don't believe a word of that?
So for me, I think it's probably pretty common. But orbs or balls of light or whatever you want to call them.
Which, by the way,
I think there's so...
For those of you who don't know, Cory and I went back and forth on a Facebook post one time about an orb. You're like, bullshit, it's not real.
Yeah, so for me, it's really... We always try to figure out what other than paranormal could this be?
Yeah.
By any means necessary, whether that's you go get in your car and drive over some railroad tracks to make it sound like someone running or whatever you can do. We want to be certain that what we present as paranormal is real and that it's not, faked or just any little noise is paranormal or stuff like that. Like we really want to show real, genuine, undoubtful kind of stuff. So for me, orbs, there can be so much that it can be, and you can talk about the shape, the size, what's in the middle, what's outside of it, how it looks, how it moves, all sorts of different things. But for me, it's really, they're so hard to say definitively, like, hey, this is paranormal, because you can get one that floats weird or floats into you, floats out of you. But in reality, is it really moving like that, or is the depth perception from seeing it on camera different than what it really is? There's just so much unknowns about it.
Now listen,
me,
I'm not going to say you're wrong, and I'm really not. I was going to set up the joke there, but there's you could say this about a lot of paranormal stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could use that argument against boy, we saw a figure on the screen. Okay, well, it could be a reflection. It could be the memory card screwing. There's a world of things it could be. So it's one of those things. It's interesting to hear what people's different views are.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But you're wrong about orbs.
I can tell you, I've never seen my wife so scared of my shadow as what I did at Brodhead Manor.
Oh really? What happened?
Yeah, I'll save that for the show because it's rather hysterical.
Okay, fine. Have you ever had a piece of evidence that you were like legit, like real excited about, and then you figured it out what it actually was?
Oh yeah. Probably more times than we've actually captured stuff that we can't explain.
Oh boy. What's one
that
sticks out to you?
The biggest one was the truck and the railroad example I just gave. So we were at the Horridge House filming for the documentary, actually, and we were listening back to some security camera footage during the segment, and it literally sounded like someone was sprinting upstairs between the two bedrooms.
Okay.
And my dad and I are just dead set on it. We're like, what is that? We don't know what that is. Like,
Yeah.
what the heck? And my wife is the biggest skeptic of all of us. You really have to prove to her undoubtedly that something is paranormal. Otherwise, she's going to call your. So she's like, okay, but there was a headlight that went by. It was probably the car making a noise. And we're like, a car doesn't sound like a human being sprinting in the upstairs of a house. So, and me and my dad are just like, there's no way. We're dead set that, no, that wasn't it. So my dad actually goes and gets in his truck, drives over the railroad tracks next to the house, and it sounds exactly like what we were hearing.
Oh boy.
And I look at her and I say, you're just not allowed to come with us anymore. You just completely killed the buzz.
Oh, that's too bad.
We were like, oh, we're never going to live that one down. She's going to use it against us forever.
You know what's funny about it, though? You have something like that, and you think, man, I finally got it. The one piece of evidence that's going to prove all of this. It's going to make us famous, and son of a...
Exactly.
Oh,
way to kill the buzz.
Cory Lollman on the line with me for The Haunting, talking about the world of paranormal and everything in between. And please, on this next question, you don't have to name where it is, but is there a place that you've been to that it's not haunted? Everybody's like, oh yeah, this place is awesome, and you're like, it's not haunted.
I would say we've probably been to at least one that we went to, and we probably could have just slept the whole night, because we didn't.
Let me rephrase it a little bit. Has there been a place that was disappointing?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And that's kind of a tough one, because you go to a place and one night it's dead quiet, and then the next time you go it might pop off. So a chunk of these places we've only gotten to go to once, but there's definitely places that we go into and we're hyped for it, we're excited for it, and then it's just it just kind of drops the ball and nothing happens all night.
Oh, that's brutal. That is a sad night when you go, you're all fired up, and it's just you and your friends sitting around talking all night. Cory Lollman on the line. What's your favorite piece of equipment to investigate with?
Oh, that is a good one. So I really like the REM pod device.
That's the
little antenna that sits on a little box, and when you get close enough to the antenna, it'll light up and flash lights and stuff.
Okay.
And it registers electromagnetic energy.
Okay.
So like when you put your hand close to it, the energy from your body will trigger the alarm, or if you touch it, then it'll trigger the lights and sounds to go off.
Okay.
But for me, when that thing goes off and there's no reason, nothing's by it, nothing's close to it, something has to trigger it to go off. It doesn't just randomly start lighting up for no reason. So for me, that's probably my favorite.
Have you ever had anything follow you home?
Not that we know of, not yet.
Do you do any?
Our house makes a lot of popping noises already, so maybe.
Yeah, so do my knees.
Yeah, exactly.
No, going back to that, are you more on the, what do you think about this stuff? Is it more the scientific side or the, the spiritual side of things? Or do you ride the line?
So I'm a big believer that, your mind doesn't just make up random stuff, or that your body just doesn't react in certain ways for no reason.
Okay.
But I also like to visually see it, or to audibly hear it.
Okay.
And stuff like that. So it really just depends on what the experience is. And, I definitely think something grabbing your shirt and pulling on it and no one else is there with you, or stuff like that, is always exciting. But to use the devices, can those be doctored to do certain things? Probably, just like anything else.
Okay.
So it's really a little bit of both.
That's interesting. One other question is kind of a goofy one. What's your pet peeve when it comes to paranormal investigating?
So I like to joke and have fun all the time. We've talked enough that I think, that about me. I got a pretty good sense of humor. So when we watch stuff and people really make a mockery of it, like tell false facts or false statements about locations, That's really my biggest one. Like, I want to see the real portrayal of this location. I don't want you to tell me that this little house is got four demons in it or whatever, and portray it in that light when, it's really never been that. So I think, and people will do that to get the popularity and stuff like that. And so that really tends to tweak me the wrong way. Just because I really like to know and see the true facts of locations and stuff like that.
No, that makes sense. And boy, there are very, 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 very few paranormal style shows that I watch anymore because of that fact. Because I've had, friends like you that, are into this stuff, get on one of these shows and they completely change the story. Or they portray it in a light that it's not, one of the ones, the one they did at the Farrar house, at the school.
Yeah.
That one was like, really? Come on. It's just, it's stuff like that bothers me.
Yeah, but that's a big reason why we wanted to portray the realism of investigating with our show, because, you have these TV shows that, they have to perform well to continue making their living by doing them, and with ours, it's not what we do for a living. It's what we do for a hobby. And so that's why I'm so excited for people to see it. I think it's going to be relatable, and I think they're going to believe it.
I was saying the other one I always bring up is it always bothers me when they're like, all right, if you want us to leave, make us knock on the wall. And then you hear the knock on the wall and they're like, all right, if you really want us to leave, clap your hand, make another sound. And it's like, no, they did it once. Right. You need to leave.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's all. That always catches everyone's sense of humor.
Oh God! All right. Well, Cory Lollman from Lollman Paranormal on the line with me for the haunting. I think that's going to about wrap it up for this week. If you want to know more about Lollman Paranormal, you can hit them up on Facebook. They are going to have the Lollman Chronicles coming to spiritrealm.net here shortly. And you can check out the House of, and I don't there it is, House of 1859, The Haunting of the Horridge House over on scarenetwork.tv. Like I said, I will have links to all of this down there. Cory, happy Halloween to you. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. We'll chat again very soon.